The shuttle breach alarm screamed through the cargo hold as Princess Alara's unconscious body tumbled through vacuum toward the debris field. Captain James Chen didn't think. He launched himself through the emergency airlock, magnetic tether already detaching from his belt. The Exiled transport had dumped her here, 3 light-years from any civilized world, still wearing the ceremonial robes her father's court had stripped her of rank in. 12 seconds of air left in her lungs, maybe less. His hand caught her wrist as she spun past a jagged hull fragment. The impact drove them both toward the dark side of the asteroid cluster where his mining vessel, the Meridian, waited in shadow. Her lips were already blue, frost forming on her eyelashes. Chen fired his thruster, pulling them back toward his ship, while his HUD counted down oxygen deprivation in her bloodstream. "Come on, Your Highness," he muttered, dragging her through the outer airlock. "Don't make me explain to the Galactic Council why I've got a dead princess in my cargo bay." Atmosphere flooded the chamber. Chen ripped off his helmet and pressed 2 fingers to her throat. Faint pulse, getting weaker. He'd learned emergency medicine during the Saturn colony disaster, back when he still believed in causes bigger than survival. His hands found her sternum, started compressions. 30 counts, 2 breaths. Her chest rose, fell, stayed still. "Breathe, damn you." Alara's eyes snapped open. She gasped, coughed, rolled onto her side, vomiting recycled protein paste and bile. Chen stepped back, giving her space while keeping one hand near the plasma pistol on his hip. Exiled royalty meant trouble, and the transport that had dumped her had burned hard for the jump point the moment she'd been pushed out the airlock. "Where—" her voice cracked. She tried again. "Where am I?" "Salvage vessel Meridian. Registered independent trader, currently operating in the Keltor belt." Chen kept his tone neutral. "You were floating dead in space." "Well, almost dead. I pulled you back." She pushed herself upright, royal training evident in how she composed herself despite shaking hands. The ceremonial robes were torn, stained with blood that wasn't hers. Chen had seen enough court broadcasts to recognize the formal exile garments, woven with quantum-locked threads that would dissolve completely within 30 days, ensuring the condemned couldn't even keep the clothes on their back. "How long until they dissolve?" he asked, nodding at the robes. Alara glanced down, something bitter crossing her face. 27 days. My father's final gift." She met his eyes. "You should have left me out there." "Probably." Chen moved to the medical locker, pulled out a thermal blanket. "But I'm already wanted in 4 systems. One more complication won't change much. Can you stand?" She nodded, accepted the blanket, wrapped it around her shoulders. "I'm Alara Vex. I know who you are. Everyone from here to the core worlds knows the princess who stood before the High Court and called her father a tyrant to his face." Chen started toward the bridge. "Question is, what am I supposed to do with you now?" The ship's proximity alarm shrieked. Chen lunged for the control console. 3 vessels dropping out of quantum fold, signatures reading as Korthan Matriarchy warships. Not Royal Navy, not bounty hunters. Something worse. "They followed the transport," Alara said quietly, moving beside him. "My father made a deal. The Korthan Queen wants me alive." "Why?" "And because the lead warship fired a tractor beam. The Meridian lurched, engines screaming as Chen pushed them to maximum. Because she wants to watch him lose everything he values before she takes his throne." Chen cut power to non-essential systems, rerouted everything to shields and engines. The asteroid field ahead offered cover, but the Korthan vessels were faster, better armed, and already flanking his position. "I need you to listen very carefully," Alara said, her voice suddenly steady, cold. "The princess who'd faced down an empire. Drop shields in Sector 3 for exactly 2 seconds. They'll think you're surrendering. When they adjust formation to capture, not destroy, you'll have one chance to reach the asteroid's shadow. That's suicide. It's strategy. Trust me or die here. Choose now." Chen's fingers hovered over the shield controls. Every instinct screamed against trusting exiled royalty with quantum-locked death robes and enemies in high places. But the lead warship was powering weapons for a kill shot, and the princess who'd called her father a tyrant was staring at him with eyes that had already accepted her own death. He dropped the shields. The Korthan vessels immediately shifted formation, tractor beams repositioning for capture. Chen slammed the engines to full burn, cutting through the gap Alara had predicted, diving into the asteroid's shadow as plasma fire scorched the space where they'd been. "Now what?" he asked. Alara was already moving toward the cargo bay, Now we find out if the Korthan Queen wants me badly enough to follow us into the deep dark. Chen felt ice in his stomach. The unmapped region where ships disappeared, where quantum fields twisted wrong, where something ancient and patient waited. You're insane. I'm already dead, Captain, but you pulled me back. She paused at the doorway. So now we're both damned. Might as well make it interesting. The warships entered the asteroid field behind them, and Chen realized with crystalline clarity that rescuing the exiled princess had just made him the most wanted man in known space. The Meridian shuddered as another plasma burst struck the rear shields. Chen wrestled the controls, sending them spiraling between two colliding asteroids, while Alara worked the scanner station with the confidence of someone who'd been trained in ship operations since childhood. 40 seconds until shields fail, she reported. The lead vessel is breaking off. No circling for another pass. I noticed. Chen cut engines. Let momentum carry them behind a massive ice giant fragment. You want to explain why the Korthan Queen specifically wants you alive? Last I checked, they weren't interested in human royal politics. Until my father started mining Korthan sacred sites. Alara's fingers danced across the console. 3 months ago, I discovered he'd authorized excavation teams on Kaltor Prime. The matriarchy considers it their ancestral homeworld. I went to him privately, told him to stop before it started a war. Let me guess. He ignored you. Worse. He accelerated the timeline and had me arrested for treason when I tried to warn the Korthan ambassador. She pulled up a data file encrypted with royal seals. This is what he's really after, what he's willing to start an interstellar war to obtain. Chen glanced at the data. What he saw made his blood run cold. That's not possible. The Kelter archive is a myth. Until his teams broke through the quantum seal last week. Alara's voice was grim. The archive contains technology from the precursor civilization. Weapons that could render entire fleets powerless. My father thinks it'll make humanity dominant among the stars. The Korthan Queen knows it'll make him unstoppable. So she wants you for leverage. Force your father to stop the excavation. No. Alara met his eyes. She wants me because I'm the only person alive who knows the activation sequence. My father forced me to witness the initial breach, made me memorize the quantum key. He thought it would bind me to his vision. Instead, it made me the biggest threat to his plans. The proximity alarm screamed again. All 3 Korthan vessels converging on their position too fast to evade. End of the line, Chen said, unless you've got another miracle ready. Alara pulled up a navigation chart. The deep dark entrance is 8,000 kilometers from here. If we can reach it, we'll die in ways that make vacuum exposure look pleasant. Nothing comes back from the deep dark. Not nothing. She highlighted a section of the chart. 5 years ago, a Korthan exploration vessel emerged from those coordinates. It was dead in space, crew gone, but the ship was intact. The Queen sealed all records of the incident, but I accessed them before my arrest. The ship's logs recorded something. What? Speaking in precursor language, offering safe passage to those who come seeking sanctuary from tyranny. Chen laughed, bitter and sharp. You're basing our survival on ghost stories and deleted logs? I'm basing it on the fact that the Korthan Queen wants me desperately enough to follow us to the edge of known space, but she's never sent a vessel into the deep dark to pursue refugees before. Alara's jaw set. She's afraid of what's in there, which means it's our best chance. The lead warship fired a tractor beam. The Meridian groaned, hull plates buckling under the strain. Decide, Captain. Surrender me to them, and maybe they'll let you live. Or trust a disgraced princess and find out if sanctuary exists in the dark. Chen's father had been a miner before the Saturn disaster. He'd taught his son one crucial lesson. When the tunnel's collapsing, you don't freeze. You move toward the only light you can see, even if it might be an illusion. He slammed the engines to maximum burn, straight toward the coordinates Alara had marked. The deep dark swallowed them whole. Space twisted wrong here. Stars bent into spirals. Quantum fields fluctuated wildly, making navigation instruments scream contradictory readings. Chen flew on instinct and desperation, following a path that seemed to open before them like a corridor through chaos. Behind them, the Korthan vessels slowed, then stopped at the boundary, waiting, watching. They're not following, Alara said quietly. That should make me feel better. It doesn't. Chen's hands were steady on the controls despite sweat running down his back. Years of mining in unstable asteroid fields had trained him for precision flying, but this was different. The darkness here felt aware, intelligent, patient. There, Alara pointed to a structure emerging from the void. It was massive, ancient, built from materials that shouldn't exist, according to known physics. A station, or perhaps a temple, hanging in the impossible space between quantum realities. Lights flickered in windows that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Welcome," a voice said through the ship's comm system, speaking in perfect standard human language. "The sanctuary recognizes those who flee oppression. You may approach." Chen exchanged a glance with Alara. Her expression mirrored his own shock. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am the custodian of the deep dark, the last guardian of what the precursors left behind when they transcended physical form." The voice was neither male nor female, old nor young. "You seek refuge, Princess Alara Vex."
"You seek purpose, Captain James Chen."
"Both shall be granted, but first you must understand the price of sanctuary." The station's massive hangar bay doors opened, revealing a docking area that could have held 100 ships like the Meridian. Most of the berths were empty, but Chen counted 12 vessels of various designs, some clearly human, others from species he didn't recognize. "What price?" Chen asked. "Knowledge shared is power distributed. To remain here, you must relinquish what you know about the Kultor archive. The activation sequence, the location, all of it. That knowledge is the only leverage I have against my father. Leverage implies you intend to return to the conflict. Here, you will find something better, the means to end it permanently." The custodian's tone held something almost like compassion. "Your father seeks power through precursor weapons. I offer you truth about why those weapons were abandoned. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. The Korthan Queen is preparing something." On the scanner, the 3 warships at the boundary began moving in formation, energy signatures spiking. "They're calling for reinforcements," Alara said. "Planning to blockade the entrance until we starve or surrender." Chen thought of the 12 ships in the hangar. Refugees like them, people who'd fled into the dark and found something else. His wanted status in 4 systems meant he'd been running for years anyway. At least here, there might be answers instead of just more questions. "We dock," he decided, "but we keep our weapons ready. Wise," the custodian said. "Trust must be earned, even in Sanctuary. Proceed to berth 7. The Meridian glided through the hangar doors. As they passed the threshold, Chen felt something shift in his chest. Not painful, but profound, like crossing an invisible boundary between the world he knew and something fundamentally different. Alara felt it too. He could see it in her eyes. "No turning back now," she said. "There never was," Chen replied, and guided them into the dark. The hangar bay pressurized around them. Through the viewport, Chen watched figures emerge from the other docked ships. Humans, Korthan, species he'd never seen before, all moving with purpose but without hostility. A welcoming committee or a prison detail, he couldn't tell yet. "Captain," Alara said softly, "whatever happens next, thank you for not leaving me in the void." "Don't thank me yet, Your Highness. We might both regret I pulled you back." But even as he said it, watching the exiled princess stand with dignity despite her dissolving robes and her father's betrayal, Chen realized he wouldn't have made a different choice. Sometimes, the best decisions were the ones that damned you. The airlock cycled open, and they stepped into Sanctuary. The custodian waited in the form of an elderly human woman, though Chen suspected the appearance was chosen for their comfort rather than reflecting any true physical form. She stood at the center of the docking bay, surrounded by the refugee representatives, a Korthan warrior with ritual scars, a human merchant captain with cybernetic enhancements, a crystalline being that hummed with internal light, and others. "Welcome to the Archive's heart," the custodian said. "Here, those who flee tyranny find purpose. Here those who seek truth learn why the precursors abandoned their weapons." Alara stepped forward, still wrapped in Chen's thermal blanket over her dissolving robes. "I'll share what I know about the activation sequence. But first, I need to understand, why did they abandon technology capable of reshaping civilizations?" The custodian smiled, sad and knowing. "Come. I will show you what your father has forgotten in his hunger for power. I will show you why some weapons are better left buried. D." She turned toward a corridor that seemed to extend infinitely in multiple directions simultaneously. "And then, Princess, you will choose whether to stop him with truth or with force. The Sanctuary provides both options." Chen felt the weight of the plasma pistol on his hip. Behind them, through the hangar bay's transparent walls, the Korthan fleet gathered like a storm waiting to break. "Time to find out what we're really fighting for," he said. Elara nodded, squared her shoulders, and followed the custodian into the impossible depths of the station. Chen walked beside her, a salvage captain and an exiled princess bound together by chance and choice. The deep dark closed around them like a promise. The corridor shifted as they walked, walls displaying images from species long extinct, civilizations that had risen and fallen before humanity took its first steps toward the stars. The custodian moved with fluid grace, her elderly human form occasionally flickering to reveal something else underneath. The precursors were not one species, she explained, gesturing to a massive mural showing beings of pure energy interacting with corporeal forms. They were a collective consciousness that arose when 12 different civilizations chose cooperation over conquest. They created wonders, technology that could terraform worlds in hours, weapons that could unmake stars, devices that bridged dimensions. Elara studied the mural with the intensity of someone trained in strategic analysis. Then why abandon it all? Because they discovered a truth that shattered their confidence. The custodians stopped before a door marked with symbols that hurt to look at directly. They learned what happens when power exceeds wisdom. Come, the memorial chamber will show you. The door opened onto a vast spherical room. At its center hung a holographic recreation of a planet, green and blue, alive with cities and forests. As they watched, a beam of light touched its surface. The planet didn't explode, it simply stopped. All motion ceased.
The clouds froze mid-swirl. The oceans became glass.
Every living thing on that world crystallized in a single instant. The Kelter archive contains 73 such weapons, the custodian said quietly. This was the result of testing just one. 4 billion lives ended before their scientists understood what they'd created. A weapon that doesn't destroy. It erases the concept of change itself. Entropy death made manifest. Your father wants to excavate weapons like this? Elara's face was pale but controlled. He thinks he can use them as deterrents. Ensure humanity's dominance through threat alone. They all think that. The Korthan warrior stepped forward, his ritual scars glowing faintly. I am Commander Vesh. I fled my own queen's service when she ordered me to retrieve similar technology from a forbidden site. She believed the same, that power held but not used would prevent war. What happened? Chen asked. The weapon activated during transport. My entire fleet became a monument to hubris. 3,000 warriors, frozen in time, aware but unable to move, think, or die. They exist in eternal stasis, and I can do nothing to free them. Vesh's voice carried a weight that went beyond grief. I came here seeking answers. Instead, I found a question: what is power worth if its use destroys the soul of those who wield it? The crystalline being chimed in musical tones. The custodian translated. Harmonious Krell says that her people discovered precursor technology 3 centuries ago. They used it to expand their empire across 200 worlds. Within a generation, they had forgotten how to build anything themselves. Within 5, they had lost the knowledge of basic engineering. When the technology finally failed, their entire civilization collapsed. They had become dependent on power they didn't understand. The pattern repeats across species, the custodian said. The precursors recognized it in themselves before transcendence. They chose to seal away their most dangerous creations, not as punishment, but as mercy for those who would come after. My father won't listen to warnings. He's convinced himself that humanity is different, special, destined to rule the stars. How do I stop him? You have 3 paths. The custodian raised 3 fingers. First, you could share the activation sequence with me. I will seal the archive permanently, making it impossible for anyone to access. Your father's excavation will yield nothing, and the weapons will remain dormant. There are references to other archives in the Royal Library. Correct. Which brings us to the second path. The custodian's second finger glowed. You could return to him, challenge him publicly before the High Court, use your knowledge of his crimes to force his abdication. The testimony of his own daughter might sway enough council members to depose him. My word means nothing now. Which leaves the third path, the final finger pulsed with dark light. You could activate the archive yourself. Use its weapons to destroy your father's excavation teams. Make an example so terrible that no one will dare pursue precursor technology again. The frozen planet rotated slowly, a warning and a temptation. No, Chen said. There's a fourth path. The custodian tilted her head. Enlighten me, Captain. Not through court testimony, but through action. Chen's mining background kicked in, the same strategic thinking that had kept him alive in unstable asteroid fields. If the archive is as dangerous as you say, then his excavation teams are already at risk. We go there, document the dangers, and broadcast it to every system in known space. Show people exactly what he's unleashing. They'll kill you the moment you arrive, Vesh said. Royal Guard will have orders to shoot on sight. Not if we arrive as salvagers. Chen turned to Alara.
He didn't announce your death.
There's a difference. If I show up claiming to have found you in the debris field, offering to return you for a reward, they'll have to bring us in to verify your identity. And once inside, we get to the archive. We record everything. And we make sure the galaxy sees what happens when arrogance meets technology it can't control. The merchant captain stepped forward, her cybernetic eye whirring as it focused on Chen. I'm Captain Sarah Martinez. I've run blockades and broken 3 different embargoes. If you're planning something stupid and noble, uninterested, what do you need? A ship that doesn't look like a sanctuary vessel. Broadcasting equipment powerful enough to punch through royal jammers. And enough firepower to make an exit if things go wrong. I can provide those, Martinez said. On one condition. I come with you. I didn't flee to sanctuary to hide forever. I fled to find something worth fighting for. One by one, the other refugees stepped forward. The crystalline being offered advanced sensors. A human engineer offered hacking protocols for royal security systems. Even Commander Vesh offered tactical support, though his eyes remained haunted. You would risk everything, the custodian said quietly. Sanctuary offers safety. Why leave it? My father taught me that power defines civilization. But you've shown me something else. That wisdom means knowing when not to use power. I'd rather die proving that truth than live hiding from it. She turned to Chen. You saved my life in the void. Now let me choose what to do with it. Chen saw in her eyes the same desperate clarity that had driven him to pull her from vacuum in the first place. The understanding that some choices mattered more than survival. Then we go back, he said. We show the galaxy what the king has become. And we hope it's enough. The custodian studied them both, then nodded slowly. The sanctuary will support you. But know this, once you leave, you may not find your way back. The deep dark only opens for those who truly need refuge. If you return to the conflict, you accept that this may be the last time we speak.
Understood, Alara said.
One more thing. The custodian stepped close to her, placed a hand on her shoulder. The activation sequence you memorized. It's incomplete. Your father lied to you, gave you only part of the code. He never intended you to have full access. But here, in the archive's heart, I can complete your knowledge. The question is whether you trust yourself with that power. Alara met the ancient being's gaze. Will it help me stop him? It will give you a choice. To destroy the archive entirely, rendering all his excavation worthless, or to use its power yourself, becoming the very thing you claim to oppose. Give me the knowledge. I'll prove I'm not my father. The custodian's hand glowed. Information flowed between them, vast and terrible. Alara gasped, staggered, but didn't pull away. When it finished, she stood straighter, older somehow, carrying a burden that showed in the set of her shoulders. It's done, the custodian said. You now hold the complete activation sequence. What you do with it will define not just your fate, but perhaps the fate of all who seek power they don't understand. Chen watched the exiled princess who'd called her father a tyrant, now armed with the very knowledge that could doom or save civilizations. He'd pulled her from the void on impulse. Now he'd follow her back into danger on purpose. How long until we can launch? He asked Martinez. 6 hours. I'll need that long to outfit the ship and prep the broadcasting equipment. Then we use that time to plan. Chen turned to Vesh. You know royal security protocols. Help me find their weaknesses. The Korthan warrior nodded.
With pleasure.
As they dispersed to prepare, Alara caught Chen's arm. Why are you doing this?
You don't owe me anything. You could stay here, safe from your wanted status, hidden from the consequences. I pulled you from the void because leaving someone to die wasn't who I wanted to be, Chen said. I'm going back for the same reason. My father died believing he was worthless because the company abandoned him during the Saturn disaster. He died thinking nobody cared about principles anymore, only profit. I'd rather prove him wrong than prove him right by hiding. Alara's hand tightened on his arm. Then we'll prove it together, and if we fail, we make sure the failure means something. She smiled, brief and fierce, and Chen recognized in that moment the woman who'd stood before the high court and named her father's sins. Not broken by exile, not diminished by betrayal, but refined by both into something harder and truer than royal blood alone could forge. They had 6 hours to prepare for a mission that would likely kill them. Chen had never felt more alive. The ship Martinez provided was a modified courier vessel, fast and equipped with military-grade broadcasting arrays hidden behind civilian hull plating. Chen christened it the Last Testimony because gallows humor was all they had left. They emerged from the deep dark into normal space 12 hours later. The Corthan blockade fleet had grown to 15 vessels, all maintaining position at the boundary. But Chen's new transponder codes identified them as salvage operators returning from a standard debris field sweep. Salvage vessel Last Testimony, this is Corthan warship Divine Judgment. The comm crackled. You emerge from forbidden space. Explain your presence. Chen activated the comm. This is Captain Chen, independent salvager. We tracked an Exile transport's debris trail and recovered something valuable, requesting clearance to proceed to Keltor Prime. Then, define something valuable? Elara stepped into the comm pickup range, still wearing the thermal blanket over her dissolving robes. Tell your queen that Princess Elara Vex is alive and wishes to bargain. More silence. Chen could imagine the chaos erupting on the Corthan flagship. Scrambled communications with the queen, debates over protocol, weapons charging just in case. Finally, you will proceed to Kelter Prime under escort. Any deviation from the designated course will result in immediate destruction. The queen wishes to speak with the princess personally. 3 warships detached from the blockade, forming a triangle around the Last Testimony. Chen set course for Keltor Prime, where his father-in-law's excavation teams were slowly breaking through to the archive. Phase 1 complete, Martinez said from the tactical station. We're in. Now comes the hard part. Elara had changed into civilian clothes, durable work coveralls that Martinez had provided. The ceremonial robes were down to 18 days before complete dissolution. She'd folded them carefully, stored them in a sealed container, a reminder of who she'd been and what she'd lost. The Queen will want to extract the activation sequence, she said. She'll use enhanced interrogation if necessary. Let her try, Chen said. We'll be broadcasting to every system in known space before she gets the first syllable. The documentation equipment is ready. We just need to get close enough to the archive to record what's really happening. Keltor Prime grew in the viewport. A world of purple skies and crystalline formations that caught the light of twin suns. Beautiful and deadly, like most things in the universe. The Royal Excavation Site was visible from orbit, a massive scar across the northern continent where hundreds of workers and machines tore into the planet's crust. That's bigger than the reports indicated, Fesh said, studying the tactical display. Your father isn't just excavating the archive. He's strip mining the entire region. Elara's jaw tightened. He's panicking, trying to find the entrance before the Corthan Queen can stop him. Or before his own daughter can expose him. Chen received landing coordinates. We're cleared for descent. Landing Bay 3, Royal Compound. This is it. The Last Testimony dropped through atmosphere, escorted by the Corthan vessels until Royal fighters took over. The transition was telling. Neither side trusted the other. Both wanted Elara, and Chen's ship was the fragile point of negotiation between them. They landed in a bay designed for royal transports, surrounded immediately by both human guards in royal livery and Corthan warriors in ceremonial armor. The standoff was palpable. A figure emerged from the royal delegation, High Chamberlain Marcus Verne, the man who'd read Elara's exile decree before the court. He approached with careful neutrality, a diplomat walking a knife's edge. Princess Elara, he said, your return is unexpected. His Majesty will wish to speak with you immediately. I'm sure he will. Elara descended the ramp, head high despite everything. But first I'd like to see what he's building in my absence. The excavation site, specifically. That's not possible. This site is restricted to authorized personnel only. Or explain to the Corthan Queen why you refused her primary negotiating asset access to the very thing she wants to discuss. A Corthan official stepped forward. A female warrior with ritual tattoos that marked her as royal advisor. The Queen demands the princess be brought to her immediately. This delay is unacceptable. Chen watched the two factions square off, each demanding Elara, neither willing to concede. He caught Vesh's eye and nodded slightly. The former Korthan commander casually adjusted his position, blocking the quickest path from the landing bay to the royal compound. "I have a proposal," Chen said. "The princess tours the excavation site with representatives from both factions present. You'll both get time to make your pitches, and she'll make her decision with full information. Everyone wins." "Unacceptable," the Chamberlain said. "Agreed," said the Korthan advisor simultaneously. Alara smiled. "Then I choose who I negotiate with. Captain Chen, as the man who saved my life, I place myself under your protection until I decide which faction to support. If either of you interfere, I'll destroy the activation sequence. I've already memorized it in a way that requires my willing cooperation to extract. Force me, and you get nothing." She was bluffing. The custodian had given her the complete sequence, but it was stored as pure information, extractable by any competent neural scanner. But the bluff worked because both factions wanted her cooperative, not broken. The Chamberlain and the Korthan advisor exchanged glances. An unspoken agreement passed between them. 1 hour, the Chamberlain said. "You may tour the excavation site under guard. After that, you must choose." "Fair enough." Alara turned to Chen. "Shall we see what my father has wrought?" They took a royal transport, escorted by both human and Korthan soldiers. The tension in the compartment could have cut diamond. Martinez and Vesh came along, weapons visible, making it clear that any hostile move would turn into a bloodbath. The excavation site was worse up close. Massive drilling platforms had turned the sacred Korthan territory into an industrial hellscape. Workers in environmental suits swarmed over exposed crystal formations, some of which pulsed with inner light that suggested active technology. "By the ancestors," Vesh whispered. "They've already breached the outer defenses. They're less than 50 meters from the archive entrance." The transport landed near the primary dig site. The foreman, a grizzled veteran of a dozen resource extraction projects, greeted them with the wary respect of someone who recognized both royalty and trouble. "Your Highness," he said. "Didn't expect to see you here. His Majesty said you were away. Now I'm back. Show me the breach point." He led them down into the excavation, past layers of precursor material that had survived millions of years only to be torn apart by human greed and Korthan fear. The deeper they went, the more Chen's gut churned. The technology here was active, responsive, watching them with a presence that felt almost alive. They reached the breach point. A massive door stood partially open, revealing a corridor beyond that seemed to extend into impossible depths. Workers were setting up scanning equipment, preparing to enter.
"Stop," Alara said. "Everyone stop what you're doing."
"Your Highness, we have orders. For my father, I'm countermanding them. Evacuate the site immediately. I can't do that without authorization from my own." The door pulsed. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then it began to open further.
"Oh no," Vesh breathed. "It's responding to her presence."
The activation sequence, even partial knowledge, is enough to trigger defensive protocols. The workers screamed, running for the surface. But Chen knew they were too late. The custodian had warned them. Some weapons were better left buried. Now they were about to learn why. The corridor beyond the breach erupted with light that wasn't light, something that existed between wavelengths, visible to the mind rather than eyes. Workers at the entrance froze mid-step, their suits crystallizing as entropy death spread outward in a perfect sphere. "Move!" Chen grabbed Alara, dragging her behind a support column as the effect washed over where they'd been standing. Martinez pulled the foreman back, while Vesh covered the retreat with his rifle, though Chen knew bullets would be worthless against this. The sphere stopped expanding at exactly 20 meters. Inside it, 12 workers stood frozen in time, aware but unable to move, think, or die. Just like Vesh's fleet. Their eyes tracked movement, consciousness trapped in eternal stasis. "It's a defensive measure," Alara said, her voice shaking. "Unauthorized activation triggers the entropy field. It'll keep expanding with each attempted breach until it covers the planet," Vesh finished. "I've seen this before. The only way to stop it is to complete the proper activation sequence or seal the archive permanently." The Chamberlain's comm unit crackled. "What's happening down there?" "We're reading massive energy spikes. Evacuate the site," Chen said, cutting in. "Evacuate now and pull back at least 5 kilometers. This is not a drill. On whose authority? On the authority of the princess you exiled, and the archive that's about to turn this continent into a monument to your king's arrogance." Move! The comm went silent. Then chaos erupted as evacuation alarms screamed across the dig site. But Chen knew it wouldn't be enough. The sphere would expand again in minutes. They had one chance. "The broadcasting equipment," he said to Martinez. "Is it recording?" "Live feed to all major systems, encrypted so they can't jam it." "Good." Chen turned to Alara. "You said you can seal it permanently. Do it. There's another option." She stared at the frozen workers, something cold and determined in her eyes. "I could complete the activation. Take control of the archive. Use its weapons to destroy my father's excavation teams. Broadcast the destruction across known space. Make an example so terrible that no one ever tries this again." "That's exactly what the custodian warned against," Vesh said. "Using the weapons makes you what you claim to oppose. Or it makes me pragmatic. My father won't stop with words. The Korthan Queen won't be satisfied with diplomacy. But if I demonstrate the archive's power, then seal it away, both sides will have to accept that this technology is too dangerous to pursue." Chen saw it then. The same terrible logic that had driven every tyrant in history. Good intentions paving roads to hell. The belief that this time, this person, this cause was special enough to justify the means. "No," he said. "We came here to expose the truth, not to become another warning in the custodian's memorial chamber. Seal it. End this now." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You're scared that sealing it won't be enough. That your father will find another archive, that the Korthan Queen will continue her war, that all of this suffering will mean nothing. But using the weapons won't fix that. It'll just make you the next cautionary tale." The entropy sphere pulsed, growing 5 meters in diameter. More workers caught in the expansion, frozen mid-flight. Alara's hands trembled. "The galaxy needs to see what happens when you pursue this technology. They need proof." Martinez activated the broadcasting equipment, pointed it at the frozen workers. "Show them this. Show them what happens when you even try to access precursor weapons. That's all the evidence anyone should need." The Korthan advisor's comm cut in. "Princess, the Queen offers you asylum and resources. Use the archive's power to depose your father. She will support your claim to the throne in exchange for control of the technology." Chen saw Alara waver. The offer was tempting. Power to fix everything, to make the sacrifice of exile mean something, to prove her father wrong by succeeding where he'd failed. "Your father is arriving," the Chamberlain reported. "His shuttle will land in 2 minutes. He demands to speak with you personally." "Of course he does," Alara said bitterly. One last chance to manipulate his wayward daughter? Now only 30 meters separated it from their position. Chen could see the mathematical precision in its growth, perfectly calculated intervals, unstoppable momentum. If Alara didn't make a choice soon, the choice would be made for them. A royal shuttle descended through the chaos of evacuation, landing with reckless speed near their position. King Aldrich Vex emerged, still wearing his ceremonial robes of state, flanked by royal guards. He was a tall man, commanding presence honed through decades of rule, and he looked at his daughter with an expression Chen couldn't quite read: anger, disappointment, or perhaps fear. "Alara," the king said, "you've made your point. Now seal the archive and come home. We'll discuss terms for your reinstatement." "Terms?" Alara laughed, sharp and bitter. "You had me exiled. You forced me to memorize the activation sequence and then dumped me into the void. What terms could possibly matter now? I did what was necessary to protect you." The king's voice carried the weight of someone who believed his own justifications. "The Korthan Queen wanted you dead. Exile kept you alive. The activation sequence was insurance. I knew you'd never use it against me, which meant she couldn't extract it by force. You used me as a living safe, then threw away the key. Hi. How you here? How you hear you well?" The king's composure cracked. "Everything I've done has been to ensure humanity's future among the stars. The archive represents power that will guarantee our survival for the next 1,000 years. But I needed someone I could trust with the activation sequence, and blood is the only trust that matters." "Then you trust Rom." Alara stepped toward him, and Chen saw murder in her eyes. "You trust in power instead of people, technology instead of wisdom, blood instead of merit. You're everything I stood before the High Court to condemn." The entropy sphere pulsed again, now 15 meters from their position. "Seal it or activate it," the king demanded. "But do it now, before we all die." Give me one reason why I shouldn't activate it, Alara said. One reason why I shouldn't use these weapons to destroy everything you've built, make you watch it burn, then seal the archive away forever. Because that would make you exactly like me. The king's expression softened. I've made terrible choices, Alara. I know that, but I made them because I believed humanity needed strength to survive. If you activate the archive for revenge, you prove that I was right. That power is the only language civilizations understand. You'll just find another archive, another source of power to pursue. Perhaps. Or perhaps seeing you choose mercy over vengeance will teach me something I've forgotten. The king looked old suddenly, tired beneath his royal bearing. I loved your mother. When she died, I swore to make humanity strong enough that no external force could ever threaten us again. But I lost sight of why that mattered. I built power for its own sake, forgetting that strength without purpose is just another form of weakness. The entropy sphere was 10 meters away. Chen could feel its presence now, a cold pressure against reality itself. Choose, Alara, he said quietly. Not because of your father or the queen or me. Choose because you have to live with the choice. And the woman I pulled from the void deserves better than becoming a tyrant, even a righteous one. Alara closed her eyes. For a moment, Chen thought she might activate the archive anyway, prove her strength through destruction. And she raised her hands and spoke in a language that predated human civilization. The activation sequence completed not for power but for closure. The entropy sphere stopped expanding. The archive's entrance sealed with a sound like reality snapping back into place. And deep within the planetary crust, ancient mechanisms engaged to make certain no one would ever open those doors again. It's done, Alara said. The archive is sealed permanently. Whatever technology was inside is lost forever. The king stared at the closed entrance, something dying in his expression. You've doomed humanity to mediocrity. Without the archive, we'll never achieve dominance among the stars. Good, Alara said. Because dominance through stolen technology is just empire built on sand. If humanity is going to matter in this universe, we'll do it by earning our place, not by wielding weapons we don't understand. The Corthan advisor stepped forward. The queen will not be pleased. She wanted access to the archive, even if only to prevent others from using it. Tell her the archive is sealed, the weapons are gone, and if she wants war with humanity, she'll have to find a better reason than my father's greed. Vesh smiled, a warrior's respect for someone who'd chosen principle over pragmatism. The queen may surprise you. She values strength, yes, but she also values wisdom. You've demonstrated both. The frozen workers remained trapped in their stasis, monuments to the price of pursuing power. Chen approached them, studied their aware but paralyzed faces. Can they be saved? He asked. No, the king said. The entropy effect is permanent. They exist outside time now, aware for eternity but unable to act, think, or die. The kindest thing would be to end their suffering, but even that's impossible. Then they'll serve as a memorial. Alara turned to the broadcasting equipment. Captain Martinez, are we still transmitting? Alara faced the camera, her dissolving robes visible beneath the civilian coveralls, her expression carrying the weight of everything she'd learned and lost. My name is Alara Vex. I was exiled by my father, King Aldrich Vex, for opposing his excavation of precursor technology on Kelter Prime. I returned to stop him because I learned what these weapons truly represent, not power, but the death of wisdom. You've seen what happens when even partial activation occurs. 12 people trapped in eternal stasis, aware but unable to move. This is the mercy of precursor technology. The archive is now sealed permanently. My father's excavation has ended, and I stand before you to say this. Any civilization that pursues precursor weapons as a path to dominance has already lost the future. Power without understanding is just another name for suicide. I don't ask you to trust me. I ask you to trust what you've seen here. And I ask you to remember that the greatest strength any species can have is the wisdom to know when not to use power. She turned off the camera. The galaxy had its evidence. The king looked at his daughter, and Chen saw the moment when parental pride fought against political calculation and lost. You've made powerful enemies today, Alara. Both the Corthan Queen and the Royal Council will want your head. But at least I'll run knowing I didn't become you. Your Highness, the Chamberlain said carefully. The royal transport is prepared to take you back to the capital. The council will want to discuss consequences. Let them discuss all they want. I'm not going back.
Alara turned to Chen.
If the offer's still open, Captain, I'd like to hire you for extended salvage operations. I hear the Deep Dark is difficult to navigate alone. The last testimony always has room for crew who know when to seal the weapons instead of using them. Welcome aboard, Alara. Though I should mention we're still wanted in 4 systems. 5 now, Martinez added. Korth and Space just added us to their watch list. Then we'll make it 6 before the year's out. Alara looked at her father one last time. Goodbye, Father. I hope you find what you're looking for, but I hope even more that you realize what you've lost. The king said nothing, just watched as his daughter walked away with a salvage captain, a former royal advisor who'd become a smuggler, and a Korthan warrior who'd abandoned his queen. Refugees and exiles, bound together by choices that mattered more than crowns. They lifted off as royal, and Korthan forces began the careful process of securing the frozen workers and documenting the sealed archive. The galaxy would debate the implications for years. Political factions would rise and fall on interpretations of Alara's broadcast. But Chen only cared that the exiled princess who'd called her father a tyrant had proven she was stronger than tyranny. Course heading? He asked as they cleared atmosphere. The Deep Dark, Alara said. I'd like to thank the custodian properly, and then maybe we can find some actual salvage work that doesn't involve world-ending weapons. Sounds perfect. Chen engaged the quantum drive. Fair warning, though. The custodian said we might not be able to return once we leave Sanctuary. The Deep Dark only opens for those who truly need refuge. We'll find a way. And if we don't, Alara smiled, genuine and free for perhaps the first time since her exile. Then we'll make our own sanctuary out here. One that values wisdom over power. The last testimony jumped to Quantum Fold, carrying its crew of exiles and refugees toward a darkness that had become home. Behind them, the Korthan blockade fleet received new orders. Pursue but do not engage. The Queen, it seemed, had decided that wisdom demonstrated was worth more than power extracted, and on Kelter Prime, King Aldrich Vex stood before the sealed archive entrance, staring at the frozen workers who'd paid the price for his ambition, and wondered when he'd forgotten that the best legacy a father could leave wasn't power. It was a daughter brave enough to stop him. 3 months later, the last testimony drifted at the edge of the Deep Dark, running quiet while Chen completed repairs to the quantum drive. The sanctuary had welcomed them back. Though the custodian had been right, the path was harder to find now, requiring precise navigation through quantum fields that shifted daily. Alara had spent most of that time helping Martinez retrofit the ship's systems and learning proper salvage operations from Chen. The dissolving robes had finally disintegrated completely, leaving her with nothing from her royal life except the knowledge of what she'd prevented. Contact, Martinez called from the tactical station. Single ship, human configuration, broadcasting distress signals. Chen brought up the scanner. Looks like a research vessel. Damage engines, life support failing. They're drifting toward the Deep Dark boundary. Could be a trap, Vesh said. Your father hasn't stopped looking for you. Only one way to find out. Chen opened a comm channel. Research vessel. This is salvage ship last testimony. We're reading your distress beacon. Do you require assistance? Static, then a voice. Young, female, desperate. Yes. Please, our engines failed during Quantum Fold. We've been drifting for 3 days. Life support is at 20% and falling. 5 crew members. No weapon signatures. They're exactly what they appear to be. Or they're very good at hiding. But Chen was already adjusting course toward the distressed vessel. Prepare for boarding. Full precautions. They brought the research vessel into the last testimony's cargo bay and helped the crew evacuate. The captain was a young scientist named Dr. Keiko Sato, her team a mix of xenobiologists and quantum physicists. They looked exhausted, grateful, and completely harmless. We thought we were dead. Our comm system was damaged, so we couldn't even send proper coordinates. What were you researching out here? Alara asked. Precursor sites? We're trying to document what remains before everything gets sealed or destroyed. She pulled out a datapad. We've located 17 minor installations in the last year. None of them contain weapons, just observational equipment and scientific records. The precursors left behind so much knowledge that isn't dangerous. We think it's important to preserve that. Chen and Alara exchanged glances. The broadcast from Kelter Prime had sparked a movement. Researchers who wanted to learn from precursor civilization without weaponizing it, to preserve the wisdom without the power. We can tow you to the nearest repair station, Chen offered. Should take about 4 days. Actually, Dr. Sato hesitated.
We heard rumors that the deep dark contains a sanctuary, a place where people who believe in wisdom over power gather.
We were hoping to find it, to share our research with people who'd understand its value. Vesh stepped forward.
What makes you think such a place exists? Because Princess Alara Vex sealed the Kelter archive instead of using it, because she chose to protect knowledge from those who'd abuse it.
That kind of choice creates ripples. We followed them here.
Alara smiled, the expression of someone who'd found purpose beyond rebellion.
Captain Chen, I think we should show them the way. You sure? The sanctuary is supposed to be secret. She guards people from power they can't handle. These researchers have proven they understand the difference. Alara turned to Dr. Sato. Follow us. Stay close. The path to sanctuary isn't easy, but it's worth the journey. They guided the damaged research vessel through the quantum fields, navigating the shifting corridors of space that led to the archive's heart. When the ancient station appeared, Dr. Sato's entire crew pressed against the viewports, awed by the structure that existed between dimensions. The custodian greeted them personally, her elderly human form radiating welcome. More who seek wisdom. More who understand that knowledge preserved is greater than power wielded.
You are welcome here.
Over the following weeks, more vessels arrived. Researchers, refugees, people fleeing persecution for refusing to weaponize discoveries. The sanctuary grew, not as a hiding place, but as a community dedicated to understanding precursor civilization without repeating its mistakes. Chen found himself leading salvage operations to recover precursor artifacts for study, working alongside scientists who treated ancient technology with respect rather than greed. Martinez established trade routes with sympathetic systems, bringing supplies in exchange for carefully vetted research data. Vesh became head of security, training a defense force dedicated to protecting the sanctuary without becoming an army of conquest. And Alara, the exiled princess who'd sealed the archive, became the sanctuary's liaison to the outside galaxy, speaking truth to power and showing that another path existed. 6 months after sealing the archive, she received a message on a secured channel. Her father's voice, older and more tired than she remembered. Alara, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that your broadcast changed things. The council voted to end all precursor excavations. The Korthan Queen agreed to a treaty, and I abdicated. The throne passes to your cousin Marcus, who has the wisdom I lacked. I'm teaching now at a small university on the Outer Rim. History and political philosophy, showing students the mistakes I made and why they mattered. It's not redemption. I'm proud of you. I should have said that before I exiled you. I should have listened when you told me I was wrong, but I'm saying it now. You're a better leader than I ever was, precisely because you know when not to lead. Be well, my daughter, and thank you for saving me from myself. The message ended. Alara sat in the quiet of her quarters, feeling the weight of words too long delayed. She didn't respond immediately. Some things required time to process, to understand, to forgive or not forgive. Instead, she went to the observation deck where Chen was watching ships arrive and depart, a constant flow of people choosing wisdom over power, finding their way to sanctuary through the darkness. Your father? He asked. He abdicated. He's teaching now. How do you feel about that? Alara considered. Hopeful. Not for him specifically, but for what it represents. That change is possible. That even tyrants can learn. It doesn't erase what he did, but it means the future might be different. And you? What does the future hold for the exiled princess? I don't know. Maybe I'll stay here, help build something that lasts. Maybe I'll go back, show people that you don't need a crown to matter. Or maybe, she smiled at him, maybe I'll keep working salvage with a captain who pulled me from the void and taught me that the best choices are the ones that damn you to doing the right thing. We're still wanted in 6 systems, you know? 7, if you count the warrant your father issued before abdicating. Then let's make it 8. I hear there's a precursor site near the Vega system that needs proper documentation. That's research work, not salvage. Maybe it's time we stop making that distinction. They stood together, watching the sanctuary grow, watching refugees become community, watching power transform into wisdom through the simple choice to preserve rather than destroy. And in the deep dark, the custodian smiled her ancient smile and added another entry to the memorial chamber, not of warning, but of hope. The story of a princess who called her father a tyrant, sealed weapons instead of using them, and proved that the greatest strength any being could have was knowing when not to be strong. The galaxy would remember the archive that was sealed, but the sanctuary would remember the people who chose to seal it, and the future they made possible through that choice.